very good friend of mine. We were doing our articleship together. That person was such a highly intelligent guy that every partner used to want that fellow to be the team leader doing each and every audit, and very high levels of knowledge. But that person, I don't know why, when it comes to exam, it took 3 to 4 attempts for him to clear. Very intelligent, better than us. So do not take exam as a judgment. Do not think that if I'm writing my exam twice or thrice, that means I'm not capable enough. That's a wrong way of looking at it. Okay, end of the day, your attitude matters. Your knowledge matters. Be dynamic. With second attempt also you can win the show, right? Okay, so now let's come back. Yesterday what all we've learned? We finished learning customs. I know you were tired, went home and happily slept. Okay, and yeah, same thing here. Even I was tired. What did you do in the morning? Did you read? Yeah, I said you should read. And let me tell you, as a student, you always hesitate. You think that reading means reading it for hours together. No, that's not what I'm talking about. Reading in 10 to 15 minutes is also possible. So how many of you have spent 10 to 15 minutes today in the morning on this handout, customs? Okay, others are waiting. Yeah, exercise has started studying, great. So no, see, yesterday I did a newspaper reading, revision at the end, the same thing you should be doing. Okay, now coming back to central exercise, we started yesterday. Again, we have very less time. We have to finish exercise today. We have to start CST, and then we should also do CEMAT credit rules. So there is so much to be done. Don't panic. Comfortably we'll finish. Let us start revising our excise law, what we did yesterday. Excise duty is on manufacture of goods in India, and it should not be in SEZ. We said the power is coming by entry number what? 84. For customs it was 83, this is 84. And 84 says central government has power on all goods including tobacco, but it does not have power on alcohol, drugs, etc., on which the state government is having. Okay, then we said we are supposed to read Central Excise Act 1944 along with the CEDA, right? And then we went to what? Charging section 3, which is saying that there is excise duty, therefore Schedule 1, and there is special excise duty, therefore Schedule 2, and there is no excise duty on manufacture. Then what else we've learned? What are the conditions for applying excise duty? First of all, there should be a good, and good means something which is movable and marketable, and it should be an excisable good. Excisable indicates it is mentioned in CEDA. Then we learned what is excisable. We said excisable is again two types: dutiable, on which there is duty, and non-dutiable. That means either exempt goods because of notification, or nil goods. The rate as of now is nil. Maybe in future they will put some rate. And then something else we read, which is non-excisable goods, which is not mentioned in CETA at all. Okay, then we said these kind of goods should be manufactured, and manufacture is of two types: real manufacture resulting in some good, or deemed to manufacture. And what is deemed to manufacture? That manufacture which is not even, you and I, we don't even imagine that it is manufactured. It is specified in CETA. That is what we've learned. And then what else we've seen? Taxable event. Yeah, taxable event is very important. Levy is on manufacture and collection is on removal. So before we go to the next topic, I want you to read that notes and look at that example again. Please read on taxable event, whatever notes we have written, kindly read it once. 5 minutes we can spend, nothing wrong. Okay, so this is what you should remember. Let's read everybody. Everybody has to read. So from yesterday's points, what is the conclusion? We said if there are excisable goods at the time of manufacture, on removal, happen? This particular excisable good, the rate can increase or decrease on removal. This particular excisable good may become exempt. This particular excisable good, earlier it had a rate, now it became nil rate. What to do in all such cases? Consider whatever is happening on removal. Whatever is the new rate, apply. If it has become exempt at the time of removal, apply the exemption. If the rate became nil, you apply nil. This is what you have to remember. This is the summary. We have put A, B, C, D, so many goods, but end of the day, what is the conclusion? This is the conclusion. Now I will change. I will say there is a non-excisable good. That means when the manufacture has happened, that time the good was not mentioned in CETA. But now on removal, it became excisable good. What to do? There will not be any duty on it. Why? Because levy is on manufacture, and at the time when the goods were manufactured, it was non-excisable. So are you okay with this conclusion now? Yeah, this conclusion is very important for solving our problems. Be careful about taxable event. As I told you, you may get one question from here. So it's very important topic. Yesterday customs also taxable event, very important. Here also very important. Now coming to the next topic, we will run through because there is so much to be done. I was thinking in the morning, how do I manage? Till 7 in the evening and lot of pressure, traffic restrictions. From today only people are celebrating this and that. In fact, see, I was planning for this class for the last 20-30 days. But because of non-availability of room, it got scheduled to this day. Otherwise, we could have had it immediately after your results. Not a problem, we'll make the best use of time. Okay, now what am I discussing? Scrap. Scrap we are discussing. Okay, very good. Excise duty on waste or scrap. Okay, now when a particular company is a manufacturer and it is manufacturing a finished good, in the process of making this finished good, there are chances that sometimes some waste or scrap will come out which has some value. It is movable. Okay, so there are chances that this scrap is movable and it also has some market value, marketable also. Like see, for example, when you're manufacturing sugar cane, okay, in the process of making sugar cane, molasses comes out. Okay, it's a byproduct kind of thing. For the company which is making sugarcane, maybe for them it's not important, but there are so many buyers of molasses. What do they do with that? They make alcohol and wine. Okay, so there are chances that your byproduct comes out or waste comes out or some scrap comes out which has some value. It is movable and it is marketable. Then what to do? Whether excise duty is to be levied on such good or not? What should be the answer? Yes. Okay, the answer is, please check those conditions which we have written as per charging section. First of all, the scrap which is coming out, it should be a good, and good means movable and marketable. Second one, that scrap should be excisable good. This is important. Just a good is not important. It should be mentioned in CETA. Then, if these are satisfied, the duty can be levied on it. Okay, so not necessary that only finished goods suffer excise duty, even waste and byproducts suffer excise duty if these conditions are satisfied. And when is it not taxable? If it is not mentioned in CETA, then there is no tax on it. So briefly, if you remember these points, it is enough. Okay, now coming to the next topic, which is classification. Because in customs we did not write much on classification, I would like you to write down under excise law. Put the heading classification of excisable goods. This topic, one theory question can come for 4 marks. Classification of excisable goods. Some points, 4 points we will write down. Point number 1. It means determining heading and subheading. It means determining heading and subheading of CETA under which goods would be covered. Okay, why we want to go and classify under CETA, for what purpose? The rate of duty, the excise duty rate is given where? In CETA. So to pick up that rate of duty, we have to go and classify our good. Not just that, even exemptions are reflected in CETA. So for applying the right exemption, you should know where to classify the good. Okay, now please write down. Next one, small a, code system. CODE, code system. It is a traditional method of classification. Also called as 8-digit code system. It is a traditional method of classification, also called as 8-digit code system. Okay, the code consists of chapter name, comma, chapter heading, chapter subheading, comma, tariff item, okay, comma, rate of duty. Okay, next one, small b, you write first, we'll write, then we'll understand. Harmonized system of nomenclature. Okay, write down first point. It is a modern method of classification. It is generally used for international goods. Currently 140 countries are using this system. Okay, so I will repeat yesterday's example. Now somebody is manufacturing T-shirt. So they want to go and classify under CETA for the sake of excise duty. How will they classify? They will go with the 8-digit coding system followed by India. So 8-digit, everything has got 2. So this is 2 into 4 is 8. First is a chapter. So here we will go to the chapter ready-made garments. Above the chapter, one more heading will be there. Section 1, textile. Under textile, chapter is ready-made garment. Under that heading, what kind of heading? What is the fabric used? Okay, so it could be cotton fabric or silk fabric. Then what else you can say? 100% cotton or mixed cotton, and then you can say T-shirt, male or female, like that bifurcation is there. So ready-made garment, and then we are talking about fabric, then cotton, then what is it made? T-shirt or a casual pant or a jeans, what is it? Like that they have bifurcated. So simply remember, India is following 8-digit coding system, and this is similar to our HSN. They have copied our HSN pattern, harmonized system of nomenclature, and they are following like this: chapter name, heading, subheading, tariff item, against this item, rate will be given. Okay, so I told you this is your CA final syllabus. In final, you have to study about 20 pages on interpretation rules, how to correctly classify. Right now it was not part of your syllabus. Okay, so now because I wanted everybody to settle down, a very important topic we are starting now, which is valuation under excise. Just like yesterday we have learned valuation under customs. Now today's topic, one question for 4 marks, sure to come from here. Whatever we do, next 1 hour, please be awake in the class. Okay, I hope you did not have heavy lunch. Had a? Okay, no problem. In spite of the lunch, exam, keep telling yourself, indirect taxes will bring me marks, it will help me pass, it will help me get a rank, it's very important, 25 marks, all that keep telling, you have to tell your mind, motivate yourself. Okay, so now a very important chart we are putting, so put the heading, valuation. Valuation. Now complete concentration is needed, let us see what we are planning to do. You have to write it along with me because today we are running short of time, so we have to pace up. Okay, yesterday basic customs duty, until and unless problem is telling us, if the problem is silent, what rate you will apply? 10% basic customs duty. If the problem is silent, you will apply 10%. Otherwise, follow the problem. And for excise duty also, you will apply 12%. If the problem is telling something else, you apply that. Okay. Okay, without talking, shall we finish it? If you are done, let me know. Done, huh? Okay. Now valuation is an important topic. Just like again I will repeat, in service tax we said refer 67. Yesterday when we were doing customs law, how did we learn valuation? Quickly tell me. Let me see how many of you remember. What did you do for customs law? you're saying that customs valuation is either based on transaction value or the amount fixed, tariff value fixed by the government. In transaction value, say if it is rejected, go to valuation rules. If it is not rejected, then go to the format, add something and deduct something, whatever we've learned. Okay, more or less you got an idea. Right, now coming to today's topic, valuation for the sake of excise duty. Now let us see what we have to understand from here. The law is telling about, you may get small questions, 4-mark theory questions from the first 3 topics, or you may get a practical question. Practical question can come either on this or on this, whereas these topics are for a theory question. Okay. Now let us understand what do you mean by specific duty. Again, see, yesterday what did the law say, customs law for poppy seeds, oil and brass, etc. Based on the quantity, kg, liter and on some specific customs duty they were taking from you. Here also the government has notified some kind of products for which they are taking specific duty based on the physical length, like for example based on the length of the cigarette. They are charging excise duty. So here specific duty is based on the character of the product like length to volume, etc. Coming to compounded levy scheme. Now what is this scheme? If you remember in VAT there was one scheme called composition scheme. There are some small dealers. So we told them don't take the pain of keeping all records, go for a shortcut scheme called composition scheme. Similarly under excise law, we are telling to the manufacturer, you can go for a compounded levy scheme. This is optional. Now I'm writing point number 1. This is optional for you. If you opt for this scheme, no need of records, no need of accounting records, etc. Then how to pay excise duty? Law is telling, they have notified what kind of products come under this category. They have notified 2 types, like manufacture of stainless steel putties, this is the language of excise law, or aluminium circles. If you are making something like this, then they are saying based on the machine that you have to manufacture that, it is like 30,000 rupees or 40,000 rupees excise duty per machine. So here under compounded levy scheme, we are not asking them how much manufacture you have done. Rather we are taking excise duty on the basis of machine. So let's say one manufacturer who is making the stainless putties, he's got 2 machines in his factory. Then he has to pay every month 60,000 rupees as excise duty to the government. Whether he did production or not is irrelevant. This is the scheme that we are giving to him. If he is not comfortable with this scheme, then he should follow this one. Transaction based valuation, he can go. But we have a shortcut for him. Okay, this is based on the machine. Next one we are talking about duty based on capacity. See, just like in income tax, we know there is a biggest problem which is tax evasion. People don't voluntarily comply taxes, there is lot of evasion. Similarly, in indirect taxes also there is lot of evasion. And evasion is very high when the rates are very high. You agree with that? Yes. Let's say if the government says a particular product, the rate of excise duty is 60%, 70%, for example. How will you react? You are not comfortable with such high rate. So what they do, they try to evade from taxes. To control tax evasion, excise duty evasion, this concept has been started, duty based on capacity. This is mandatory. The government has identified that in the manufacture of certain goods like pan masala, gudka, tobacco, etc., there is very high level of excise evasion. So now what the law is telling, because what people do, let's say if they raise 100 invoices for making 100 boxes of pan masala, how do they manage? They follow that 70-30 ratio. 30% they'll keep it white, on paper they record. 70% they will make it black under the table without raising a proper bill. They manage their business. So like this, because rates of excise are very high on such products, pan masala, liquor and all, they suffer very high rates of excise duty. So people evade taxes. So to control the tax evasion, what is the method followed? Duty based on capacity. That means what is the capacity of the factory? The factory can make 5 lakh units of gutkas. Based on the capacity we will tax you. How much you made, how much you sold, we are not interested. And see, when it comes to factory cannot be hidden. It is open. So excise officer will come, he will investigate, have a look at the factory. Based on the physical appearance and all the technical specifications, he will check you and he will say duty is based on capacity, not on your sales, not on your turnover. We don't even want your books of accounts. And this is for notified goods like pan masala, I told you, tobacco and gutka products, etc. For that, based on the capacity of production, we are taking excise duty. Here it was specific duty. What was the topic here? On the basis of length of a cigarette. Okay, those who smoke, you must be aware that longer the length, how do you know, madam? I don't know. Okay, longer the length, higher is the excise duty on it. Okay, because expensive cigarettes means, why is it so expensive? You pay a lot of taxes. VAT rates are very high and excise rates are very high. So based on the length they are taking. This is on the basis of number of machines. This is on the basis of capacity. How many units of pan masala this factory can make? Based on that, excise duty. Now coming to this one. Duty based on value. So here we are talking about 3 things. Tariff value, retail sale price and transaction value. Tariff value. Under section 3 subsection 2, central government has identified and notified some goods. For example, jewelry and ready-made garments. Ready-made garments. For these type of goods, the government is telling that they want excise duty in a specified manner. So for example, they will say for a jewelry, please refer to the tariff value given in CETA. CETA will talk about the value. On the basis of such value, we want excise duty. We are not interested in the actual sale price. What is the demerit of this kind of method, please tell me? Or this kind of method based on length, based on fixed value. Imagine if the market is doing good and the manufacturer has increased the selling price like anything. Then in that case, government will lose. Why will it lose? This is on the basis of length, physical parameters. We are not interested in the selling price. So even if the market is very high prices, still government will get same duty. Here also, government has fixed some value. They are not interested in your value. They are interested in their value which is given in CETA. Based on such value, you have to pay tax. So again, government may lose if the prices are increasing. Next again, government has come up with a list of some goods under section 4A for which they are following retail sale price method, RSP method. Based on MRP, they want to take excise duty from you. See, all this notification we have, you should not get confused which method will apply for which product. You have to go and refer CETA. CETA is going to tell you, if you are a manufacturer, if you are making pan masala, then you have to follow this method. If you are a manufacturer making jewelry, for you this method is applicable. And now what about this retail sale price? This is applicable for products like biscuits, toothpaste, etc. Okay, so government has come out with a list which good will fall under which category. So here biscuits are coming. Okay, so for biscuits, what method they are following? Retail sale price, MRP based method. So we will write some notes on this because this is an important topic. Please come to your book. Put the heading duty based on value. Duty based on value. These three I'm not telling. You have to remember. I hope you wrote the running notes for the first three. Duty based on value. Write down the first one. Tariff value under section 3 subsection 2. Okay, under this you write central government may fix value for some of the excisable goods. Central government may fix value for some of the excisable goods by way of notification. The duty in such case is percentage of tariff value and not assessable value. Actual price we are not interested. We just want the tariff value fixed by the government. Example, government has fixed tariff value for jewelry, which is 30% of transaction value declared in the invoice. So see, this is beneficial. Instead of taking duty from you on entire invoice, they are taking what is value. 30% they are treating as value. Taxable value is not the entire invoice price. It is only 30%. Second point, one more example. For branded ready-made garments, tariff value fixed by the government is 30% off. Tariff value fixed by the government is 30% of retail sale price. Do one example now, write down. X Limited manufactures ready-made garment. X Limited manufactures ready-made garment for 10 lakhs. RSP, retail sale price is 30 lakhs. Okay, why RSP becomes 30? See, after the manufacture, it passes on so many stages, wholesaler, retailer, and finally when it is going to the consumer, the MRP is 30 lakhs after all taxes, everything inclusive of all taxes. The rate of duty is 12.36%. Compute excise duty under section 3 subsection 2. Okay, write down. First of all, we need to know the tariff value. Write down. Tariff value, what did the government notify? 30% of retail sale price. Tariff value is equal to 30% of RSP. 30% of RSP, that is coming to 9 lakhs. 9 lakhs. Excise duty is equal to 12.36% of 9 lakhs. 12.36% of 9 lakhs, which is coming to 1,11,240. 1,11,240. Okay, now we will learn the next method. What is that? RSP based retail sale price method, where section 4A is applicable. Write down section 4 capital A. This method has one more name. Write down MRP based valuation. MRP based valuation. Central government through notification. Central government through notification may order some of the manufacturers who are required to declare RSP or MRP on the product, who are required to declare RSP or MRP on the product as per Legal Metrology Act 2009. Legal Metrology Act 2009. This act is going to tell which manufacturer has to follow MRP concept. So we are not referring to that act, we don't have time. Just remember. So for those people, this section 4A is applicable. Next point, duty has to be paid. Duty has to be paid on such MRP, after giving abatement. Duty has to be paid on such MRP after giving abatement. Next line, taxable value is equal to MRP minus abatement. Did we do this concept yesterday? Yes. Yeah. Okay, now you would also write under section 4A examples. What are the examples? Biscuits, toothpaste, camera, you write. 4A is applicable for biscuits, toothpaste, camera, etc. Many are there. Some examples I am giving you. Okay, sometimes if you see the box, MRP will be, if sold in Hyderabad 40 rupees, if sold outside 42 rupees. Then what is excise duty on which number? Law is telling whichever is higher. Okay, when two or more MRPs are given, they are asking us to pick the highest one. Okay, sometimes what will happen? They write one MRP, they'll strike it off and put one more MRP. Just to make us little happy, excited. Oh, it was earlier selling for 40, now they made 36 rupees. What to do then? Which one to take? Obviously not the strike out one, the prevailing one. Okay, so whenever they strike out something, what is not strike, that is important for us. Write one example. Now see, concentrate while writing the example. This is a CA final question. A Limited manufactured goods and sent it for processing and sent it for further processing to K Limited, sent it for further processing to K Limited, a job worker. Okay, next comma. After the process is completed, K Limited has sent the goods with MRP, of 20 rupees per product. MRP of rupees 20. Who's putting this MRP? The job worker. He did the finishing touches. Finally, he put MRP and the consignment came back. Following are the details of manufacturer. Okay, write down. Raw material 30,000. Job worker charges 6,000. Transport 3,000. Packing 3,000. Profit 3,000. Selling price 45,000. 5,000 units were removed. Goods are notified under 4A. Section 4A. Goods are notified under 4A. Abatement is 30%. Goods are notified under 4A. Abatement is 30%. Okay, tell me now what will you write? It's all yours. Do it and tell me. Give me the answer. Okay, is it done? What's the answer? So see, to confuse you, they have given you the extra information regarding all this cost and all, but you're not interested in the cost. What is section 4A telling? Simply take MRP. So MRP, please write down 5,000 units into 20. 5,000 units into 20. Okay, so what's the answer? Retail sale price is coming to 5,000 into 20. That is how much? 1 lakh. Less abatement at 30%. 30%. So that is coming to how much? Yeah, 30,000 is to be subtracted. Assessable value is 70,000. Assessable value is 70,000. Excise duty is equal to, excise duty is equal to 12.36% of 12.36% of 70,000. So this was a CA final question. See, if you know the concept, it will hardly take a minute for you to solve. So why to escape from the new revised syllabus here? It is very scoring. Remove all that phobia. Now what have we done with? Section 4A is over. Now very important topic is the last one, transaction value, section 4. Now quickly we have to remember two things. When will the law accept a transaction value? The law is telling when the seller and the buyer are not related to each other and the price is a market price, not an influenced price, and the consideration is that price alone, sole consideration is price, no other non-monetary consideration is coming, then we can go with transaction value. No, they are related to each other, some non-monetary consideration is also coming, then we have to go to valuation rules. The same thing is repeated here. So section 4 is also telling us take the transaction value, but please remember, do some inclusions and exclusions. Why we have to read this inclusions and exclusions? Let us check. First of all, we are clear. When can we go to transaction value? When the seller and the buyer are not related to each other and price is a sole consideration, there is no other non-monetary benefit. Now why inclusions, exclusions? I will tell you. See, there is a product worth 1 lakh rupees. Okay? So now for this 1 lakh rupees worth product, what kind of mischief people try to do? On this excise duty 12.36 should be attractive. But they will try to show like this. They will say design is for 20,000. Okay? Then they will say packing of this good is some 10,000. Then they will say freight for transport etc. is some 20,000. Finally, the cost that we are taking is 50,000. See, end of the day, in total, how much we are charging from the buyer? 1 lakh rupees. But in order to escape from excise duty, they are trying to show something like this. They say there is some design of 20, there is some packing of 10. So what we'll do, the actual cost of the good is only 50,000. On this we'll pay excise duty. This is what people are trying to do. So to avoid this kind of mischief, section 4 is going to tell us, take the transaction value and also include the following or exclude the following. See, sometimes it looks like this. The cost of the product is 500 rupees. We gave some discount of 50. It became 450. Then we said we'll drop it at your home. Freight we want some 100, 550. But on the road something can happen. We will take some insurance from you, 600. So now what do you mean by transaction value, or what am I supposed to put excise duty? Is it this one or this one or this one? Which one is relevant for excise duty? What to do? No, I am not asking some number. We have to go and learn now. What to take, what not to take. One big list is there. Because again, one 4-mark question can come from here. They will give you, please compute the value under section 4 and tell us what is excise duty. So inclusions and exclusions carefully we have to read. Okay? Chalo, now let's do it. Put a heading section 4. Transaction value. Write down. Transaction value shall be considered. Transaction value shall be considered if the following conditions are satisfied. Quickly write the two conditions. Price is sole consideration. Price is sole consideration, SOLE. Okay. Next one. Buyer and seller are not related. Are not related. Okay, next heading you put. Transaction value means. Transaction value means. First one. The price actually paid. The price actually paid or payable. Price actually paid or payable when sold. Price actually paid or payable when sold and includes any amount that the buyer is liable, any amount that the buyer is liable to pay. Buyer is liable to pay in connection with sale. Okay, now write down inclusions. One by one you take. First one, advertisement charges. Okay, now how is this coming? Let's say the manufacturer is selling the good to distributor. Manufacturer is Dabur and they are making this Chyawanprash. Now who's the brand ambassador? Amitabh Bachchan. So what is the manufacturer trying to tell? He's saying in order to sell Dabur, we have engaged this great hero and he's charging a huge amount. So I want to recover it from you. So maybe there are chances that such huge advertisement charges are separately recovered. Now what about excise duty? So this point is telling all such advertisement charges which you are trying to pass it on to the buyer, even that is subject to excise duty. Because see, transaction value means all the amount which the buyer has to pay in connection with sale. So even advertisement charges, if the buyer is bearing it, then there is excise duty on it. Second one, marketing charges. Marketing charges you have to include. On inclusions list we are putting. Okay, marketing charges. Next one, storage. Storage. Next one, servicing. Servicing. Next one, warranty. Okay, warranty charges. Compulsory warranty will be there, no, whether you want or you don't want. They'll say next to 2 years warranty is free, but it's not free. They charge you for that. They'll say like that, but they charge. Next one, outward handling charges. Outward handling charges. Next one, installation. Installation. In brackets you write, if it is substantial, that is fixed to earth. Language is earth, they are calling earth. Fixed to earth, then it is subject to service tax. Then it is subject to service tax. Okay, I will give you an example and explain. Okay, see, manufacturer has sold one small machine to you. Okay, when you bought it from him, you said, I don't know how to open it, assemble and fix it in my premises. So the manufacturer said, no problem, I will send my engineer along with the machine. He will open it for you, he will assemble, some 10 minutes work is there. He will put it in operating condition for you and come. For that we are charging separately some installation amount. So now the issue is, if a minor installation is involved, then such minor installation will be subject to excise duty itself. Because the machine was manufactured, that was the major contract. Along with the manufacture of the machine, they are also fixing it for you. So that fixing is not to be treated as a separate service. But if the fixing work is a substantial work, involving that huge cost is involved, high amount of labor is involved, the machine itself cannot come here. They have to bring it in small parts, then one by one they are doing one by one fixing in the earth. Then in that case they are saying the entire installation charges are very high. It is subject to service tax. If it is small, put under excise duty. If it is big, you put it under service tax. Next one, packing. Under inclusions we are doing packing. Okay, now what kind of packing we are talking about? See, when you buy a product, it comes in boxes. So whatever packing material is there, on that excise duty is involved. But sometimes, let's say you're buying glass. We want to construct a house. For the doors, we want glass. How will the glass come to your premises? The seller of the glass, what will he do? He will use some kind of waste wood. For transporting that glass, they will put the glass in some wood frame, and that frame will come to your premises. They will deliver the glass here, take the frame and go back, because in transportation there are chances that the glass may break down. So some returnable packing is coming. That frame is nothing but a packing which has to be returned. You can't keep it with you. The manufacturer will take it back. So with respect to such packing, there is no excise duty. Only for the sake of bringing it, it is coming here, it is going back again, then there is no excise duty on it. But the boxes, the containers which come to us, which we don't return, on that there is excise duty. Okay, so next one, Dharmada. D-H-A-R-M-A-D-H-A. Dharmada. Okay, traditionally this is called fixed charity. The seller of a good manufacturer was taking some fixed charity from the buyer. That is called dharmada. Whether you want or you don't want, you have to pay that amount. Only then the good will be sold to you. So when you are paying that charity, that means it is a consideration for buying the good. Therefore, excise duty is there. Next one, design charges. Write down design charges. Next one, spare parts. Spare parts. Okay, this will include only when it is sold as a package. Along with the machine, some spare parts are coming. It is compulsory that you buy the spare parts. Then even on that, excise duty is attractive. Next one, testing and inspection charges. Testing and inspection charges. See, imagine if you don't test, tomorrow the buyer will reject the good. So you have to do the testing. It is part of the process. Therefore, include. Next one. Okay, inclusions are over. Now to the heading exclusions. Exclusions. First one, taxes. Okay, you have to exclude the taxes. Like what kind of taxes? Write down service tax, etc. If you have paid some taxes, on that there is no excise duty. Taxes you exclude. Next one, discount. There is no excise duty on discount. That means, what does it mean? My cost is 500. I have given a discount of 50. Excise duty is on what? 450. Exclude means what? On this 50 rupees which we are not charging, there is no excise duty. Excise duty is on the amount that we are taking from the buyer. So because you are taking 450, on that there is excise duty. Okay. Next one, interest. Sometimes when the buyer is not prompt in paying, we take interest from him. On interest there is no excise duty. Bank charges. Do you take bank charges from the buyer? Yes. See, when you sell goods, some outstation buyers are there. They are not in the same city. When you there is a purchase order on you and they give an outstation check to you for paying the amount. For clearing the outstation check, the bank will take some bank charges from you. Why should you bear it from your pocket? So what will you do? The bank charges burden, you pass it on to the buyer. So in that case, excise law is telling if you are recovering some bank charges from your buyer, even on that bank charges there is excise duty. Why like that? See, try to understand the theme. We want to levy excise duty on the amount of consideration which is going out from the pocket of the customer. In the hands of manufacturer, it need not be turnover, it need not be profit, it need not be anything. You charged it from the consumer. On such a charge, there is excise duty. Remember that. Next one. Fright. Fright. Put a star. This will repeatedly come in the exam. Write down. Write in brackets. If the sale is from depot, freight from factory to depot will be included. If the sale is from depot, freight from factory to depot will be included. Okay, now see, this is really bad. We will try to understand what various laws are telling. What happened? Factory is here. The good has gone to the depot. From the depot, it is going to the customer. In order to sell it to the customer, we are taking freight from the customer. Freight 1, freight 2. First transportation, second transportation. Finally, the good has reached here. So let's say the product is worth 500 rupees. The first freight rupees 5, the next freight is rupees 10. So now the issue is excise duty attracted? We are charging from the customer. We are taking from the customer 500 plus 5 plus 10. Okay. Ultimately the customer has to pay the freight charges. So we are taking it from him. So now the issue is excise duty is on what? They are saying no doubt about this. On this, yes. On this, there is no freight. Okay. So now try to understand what could be the logic about this. The first freight is included. Okay. Why? What is the reason? They are trying to say from the depot the sale has happened. So the law is trying to say up to this stage, whatever expenses are incurred, we want to levy excise duty on it. Once the sale has happened here, thereafter if any other expenditure is incurred like freight, insurance, etc., after the sale has taken place, there is no excise duty on it. So they don't want to collect excise duty on 10 rupees because sale got completed at this stage. After this, whatever charges are taken, there is no excise duty on it. But VAT is not like this. You know what VAT is telling? VAT is telling that VAT is attracted on the final price which the customer is paying. So in case of VAT, we are supposed to include freight. In case of CST, we will be learning that freight should be included, but however some exceptions are there. But excise law is little kind to you. They are saying, okay, we don't want excise duty on freight because freight does not add value to the good manufactured. The goods value will stop here up to this stage. We will take excise duty. After that, we don't want to take. Each law is different. We can't help it. We have to break our head and see what each law says. Okay. So right, one more thing. Last one. Transit insurance. Transit insurance. Write in brackets. It is not to be included. It is not to be included if shown separately in the invoice. It is not to be included if shown separately in the invoice. Again, what is the logic? Up to this stage, include. After this stage, do not include. So once the sale has happened, we should also provide some transit insurance to the buyer. Road transport insurance. So with respect to insurance, there is no excise duty on it. But what condition they are putting? Please show it.